Hello Thomas fans and welcome once again. Well, it's 2018 and Big World Big Adventures will be airing their first episode soon. Of course, this has led to a lot of ranting, arguing and unfortunately people leaving the community altogether. But a lot of people tend to forget that Thomas has nearly always undergone changes ever since it first started. We've seen changes in the locations, the atmosphere, the amount of drama and comedy used, and most importantly, changes to the characters. These decisions were chosen to make the characters more interesting and unique, and through this we have seen some major improvements to the characters, and they have increased in popularity. However, there have also been characters who have been made weaker and less interesting. So today I'm going to discuss 8 Thomas and Friends characters that have been changed over the years. 4 that have been improved by the changes, and 4 that haven't. Number 1. Henry. Yes, I know I made a video years ago saying how much I didn't like Henry's character nowadays, but now that time has passed, I've started to get used to it. In his early days, Henry was quite a cocky engine and never really showed interest in what the main characters were doing. I think this made him eerily similar to Gordon and might have confused some of the younger audience. However, in Series 3 he was given a much more caring side when the forest was damaged in a storm, and he was also ill several times. When the series became CGI, Henry was suddenly a more nervous character, and would get scared at the tiniest things. Like I said in my theory video, I think this was because of his flying kipper accident, because he could easily have been damaged beyond repair, and I think that would traumatise anyone. I feel that this was a good change because Henry is more recognisable nowadays, and I certainly hope that there are some kids who are disappointed that Henry is no longer part of the Steam team. Number 2. Gordon. My second favourite character in the series really hasn't been treated that well recently. You could argue that Gordon has been a boastful, arrogant engine pretty much throughout the whole series, but in the episodes where he is the main character, we see a different side to Gordon. Just because he's a big engine doesn't make him perfect, and we see him make mistakes and learn a lesson afterwards. We haven't seen much of this in recent series, however. Instead, he just rolls his eyes at the main character of that episode whenever they try to impress him. How does this make a character likeable to the younger audience? They're not going to care for Gordon if he's mean to everyone. And at a time where characters are being kicked out of the Steam team, I'm sure there are some kids who would wish it was Gordon leaving instead of Edward and Henry. And that's not treating one of the show's most original engines with respect. Number 3. Percy. In his very first episode, Percy was a very confident, cheeky engine, even managing to scare one of the bigger engines. In the next few series, he becomes rather miserable and complained about a lot of things, coming up with quite a few humorous one-liners.
Right then, Alsdale End, said Percy. That's my home, replied Toby. That's why I like it, especially when you're there and not here saying I'm silly. Good night.
But in only his second episode, Percy probably gets the shock of his life when he is stuck on the main line, and Gordon almost crashes into him. I can imagine this would make Percy a more nervous engine afterwards, and they do indeed make him like that. I know a lot of people seem to like the grumpy version of Percy, but he's had plenty of huge accidents in his time that could have been much worse, so I think having him as a timid engine makes much more sense. Number 4. Diesel 10. I don't think I can name one person who actually likes the nicer version of Diesel 10. In the Magic Railroad, he was a fantastic villain, and I think would have had a lot of potential for the actual series. However, in calling all engines, he suddenly decides he will help the steam engines clear a line. Now, I know this should cause complaints, but in a movie where the diesel and the steamies are finally working together, I'm actually quite okay with them doing this. Calling all engines is my guilty pleasure special, because of how pleasant everything is from beginning to end. It was fantastic, however, to see Diesel 10 at the end of Misty Island Rescue, and that immediately told the audience that he was the villain again. But what did they do with him in Day of the Diesels? They did basically the same thing again, and this time I wasn't happy with the decision. It was fine in Coil Edges because it wasn't meant to be a dramatic film. Day of the Diesels is supposed to be a dramatic film, and it's annoying that we have to get another kid-friendly happy ending. So yeah, Diesel 10 is much better as a villain where the film is meant to be a drama-filled adventure. But if it's a happy film, it makes sense for him to be a good Diesel. You can't have it both ways though. Number 5. Mavis. I stand by what I said about Mavis in my top 10 characters. When she first arrived on Sodor, she was a young Diesel who made a lot of mistakes, but she also had a very vicious streak and was constantly in a rage. Years later, however, she became the more senior engine at the quarry and often told Bill and Ben what to do. I know there were people who weren't happy with this change, but I still find it quite interesting. I mean, she was working alongside Toby for the first few years, and we know Toby is really good at giving advice, so wouldn't it make more sense for Mavis to become more mature after learning her lesson? And in a series where your actions always have consequences, I think this change would make Mavis a much better influence for the younger audience. Number 6. Arry and Bert. This one probably doesn't count because these two were changed after just one episode. Arry and Bert first appeared in the episode Stepney Gets Lost. It is revealed that they work at the scrapyard, and they both come very close to scrapping Stepney. However, in the Series 6 episode, Arry and Bert now work on Sodor, and instead of being the psychotic twin diesels they were in their debut episode, they were just, well, two twin engines who play tricks on the other engines. We haven't seen that before, have we? It's a shame that we only saw the evil version of Arry and Bert once, because they could have been bigger villains than Diesel, or even Diesel 10. But instead, they just became your average diesel and made life difficult for the steam engines. And there are so many other diesels on Sodor that stand out more, so this change really did ruin Arry and Bert. Number 7. Skarloey. Poor Skarloey, what did you do to deserve this? Despite being one of the oldest, most experienced engines on Sodor, Skarloey has nearly always acted like a child, apart from Series 4, where he gave advice to a lot of engines and told them stories. Pretty much the narrow gauge version of Edward. However, from Series 6 onwards, Skarloey seems to get younger and younger as time went on. No prizes for guessing which episode is my least favourite from Season 7. There have been so many episodes where Skarloey is the main character and he's done something really childish and clumsy, or acted like a nervous wreck for no reason. However, when he first appeared in CGI, Keith Wickham gave him a much more adult voice, so I think it's safe to assume that Skarloey has matured a bit more now. But it still doesn't excuse Skarloey's earlier behaviour, which really has ruined Skarloey's reputation as a good character. Now, if you're good at counting, you will have noticed that I've mentioned 4 character changes that I thought were bad, so this last one is a change that I thought was good. I'm giving you guys a heads up because I know this last one's going to be controversial. And number 8, Emily. Hear me out. I might as well come clean and say I really like Emily. I know she is considered the least popular member of the Steam team, well, was, but there is something about Emily that makes her stand out in a really good way. When she made her debut in Season 7, she was the young, independent engine who made the occasional mistake, but I think you could get away with calling her the female version of Thomas and Percy, and I don't think we really need a copy of these two. But not long after, Emily became much more mature and would sometimes share her opinion with the other engines or tell them what to do. This is probably what's made people dislike her so much. But is it because she's female? If it was a male character doing these things, would the fans complain? Probably not. That's why I think Emily is representing feminism. Just recently, I was in a play called When They Go Low, and there was a young female character who wanted equality between women and men. I can see similarities between this character and Emily. One quote from the play that I think should be taken seriously is, "You're a feminist, and that's nothing to be ashamed of." My point is, Emily has every right to share her opinions and beliefs with the other male characters, and she has every right to stand up to them. That's why I'm happy they made this change to Emily's character. She is representing an important part of today's society, and that is that women should always have the right to speak up. Even though we've had the occasional bad changes to characters over the years, we can still be thankful that these lovable characters are still around and still entertaining us fans. It is important to make little changes every now and then, so the shows can remain fresh and move with the times. And if it weren't for some of the changes mentioned in this video, Thomas and Friends might not have lasted the 34 years that it has. So what do you guys think? Do you agree with my opinion? Did I miss a character that you think has changed? Let me know down in the comments. I'll share a link to the description to my Henry Theory video which I mentioned earlier, and I would share the link to the play When They Go Low, but for the moment I've had instructions not to. As always, thanks for watching, if indeed you still are.